This is funny. I always feel that, wow, how crazy at that moment this group could do so crazy project. Because after that, you almost forget about at that moment, what's the turning point? Now you see the project is so crazy.
To discover Mr. Huang and his successes on urban design was a surprise. It was also finally the chance for me and my research to look into reality and no more into just papers, book, or things that happened in the past.
He really can tell where this material come from, where has those field, where has those material, where we gather those things. So this changed my mind of what architect should be.
To see how he is able to create a social architecture in a place designed to be like a community, where everyone lives, eats and works together, sharing ideas and projects.
We welcome everyone to the ListLab Publisher podcast, which broadcasts stories from publications about architecture and research, told by those who make them and take part in them. Stories of women and men who promote new ways of thinking about space and the society we live in. I'm Claudio Curciotti, and we have heard the voice of some of the guests of this episode, who took part in creating a book on Taiwan and an exceptional Taiwanese architect, Sheng-Yuan Huang. Mr. Huang lives and works in Ilan, a province of the island of Taiwan. Ilan is home to a typical form of Taiwanese urbanization, a patchwork of small plots, farm, shopping malls, and housing units. But Ilan also has other characteristics that make it unique.
It's a kind of northeast part of Taiwan.
Monica Kuo, director of the Landscape Architecture Department of the Chinese Culture University in Taipei.
Because of the central mountain ranges, the Yilan Delta has been separated by the mountain. So in a way, Yilan County is very close to the metropolitan Taipei. But in the other hand, because of the separation of the mountain ranges, Yilan still can maintain his own culture and also his own natural heritage. So if today we look back to the development of Taiwan, I think Yilan maybe can kind of represent for Taiwan more than Tainan County because of the spatial landscape, geography, and also very spatial climate.
Over the past 30 years, Ilan has stood out for its local policies, the quality of public works, and environment's protection. It has become a local experimentation field for regionalist architecture. Mr. Huang lives and works in his studio, Fieldoffice, which we will discover is also a life experiment for those who take part in. Alessandro will tell us how the book The City Behind Architecture, published and distributed by ListLab, was born and created. The book reveals Mr. Huang's theory and practice, his projects, his ideas. We will understand how this is, above all, the story of a friendship.
My name is Alessandro Martinelli. I graduated from the Accademia Architettura di Mendrisio. There I also obtained a PhD under Josep Acebillo, which was the chief architect of Barcelona. That said, I've been living in Taipei for 6 years now. Here I am assistant professor at Chinese Culture University, the Department of Landscape Architecture, and I work with Bias Architect on projects and events that concern Taiwanese public space.
Here we listen Alessandro on Taiwanese national radio, telling us why he chose Taiwan as a place to live and work.
I think to talk about Taiwan, I should talk also about the reason why I come to Taiwan.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting.
And I arrived for the first time in Taiwan in 2012. It was just for visit, because there was a workshop organized by Monica, Professor Kuo, in which I participated. In the words of Monica and in what I could see, there was, at least from the intelligentsia of Taiwan, a desire to create a better public space and a better landscape.
Alessandro has a positive encounter with the Taiwanese society. In recent years, he established a relationship with various personalities who are crucial also for the realization of the book that we are talking about.
This is not just the story of a publication, it is also the story of how I met and began to appreciate the place I live now. Precisely for this reason, I hope that the book can offer anyone the possibility of approaching Taiwan, a place unknown to the most, but I think rich in culture and environmental resources. The book begins with Donato Scioscioli, the Italian representative in Taiwan from 2014 to 2018. During his tenure, Scioscioli promoted various activities to improve the relationship between Taiwan and Italy. And in this context, between 2017 and 2018, he also involved me in the organization of what it was called the Italian Design Day.
Italian Design Day is an activity promoted by the Italian Ministry for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the Farnesina, in collaboration with the Ministry of Cultural Heritage and for Tourism, intending to support Italian design globally.
In Taipei, we organized a series of ping-pong conferences, as I call them. Within these, an ambassador of Italian design presented his work alongside the Taiwanese counterpart. Our goal was there to create conditions for developing relationship between people besides a simple promotion of the Italian brand. Anyway, since he would later represent Taiwan at the 2018 Venice Biennale, during the second Italian Design Day, we have invited Sheng-Yuan Huang to debate with Riccardo Balbo, at the time the director of the IED in Turin.
Following the conference, Alessandro is invited to join the curatorial team of the Taiwanese pavilion at the Venice Biennale. During this exhibition, he organizes 3 forums with various guests, including the director of the Swiss Architecture Museum and other prominent architects. In the meanwhile, he also invites some of his contacts to meet Mr. Wang privately.
I also invited various personalities from the Italian world of architecture, including directors of publishing houses. Among these there was Massimiliano Scaglione of ListLab, who immediately found some interest in the work of Mr. Wang.
So Massimiliano leaves for Venice.
When arriving in Venice, the day before the beginning of the Biennale, it was Mr. Wang himself who showed me every single project part of the exhibition. Also explained to me the philosophy that defined these projects, with passion and willingness that are very difficult to find in an international artist like him.
On the same day, Massimiliano also meets Professor Wang, and here another character of this story is coming to play. He is the curator-in-chief of the various shows dedicated to Mr. Wang and the work of Fieldoffice.
We are not promoting him, we are promoting the idea of Taiwan architecture.
Chunusiung-wang is the director of the architecture department of Xinjiang University in Taipei. He is a great admirer and friend of Mr. Wang.
We think he is the representative of Taiwan. And his architecture is always rooted in the soil of Taiwan. And his architecture reflects the Taiwanese way of life. Yeah.
He contributed with great enthusiasm to the making of the book.
I think that's the first time that we have the opportunity to show them what is the essence of Taiwan architecture.
Professor Wang invites Alessandro to teach at Xinjiang University, where he intensifies relations with the curatorial team and has the opportunity to understand the context of Taiwanese architecture.
Actually, I did my best to do one thing: which was to strengthen the relationship between Massimiliano and some possible Taiwanese counterpart or partner. Crucial in respect of this was the acquaintance of Mr. Fang, with whom I organized an exhibition to bring Italian and Taiwanese public closer to a series of both Italian and Taiwanese artists. Mr. Fang is a very interesting person since he's a Taiwanese gallerist and entrepreneur, which is as young as active in international exchange.
Hi, I'm Fang-Yen-Wen, the founder of Group G and Wonderful Today.
Alessandro and Fang had already collaborated for some time, creating opportunities for encounters between Italian and Taiwanese artists. Together they make a book, Island, Taiwan, Sicily, and organize a double exhibition in Italy and Taiwan. ListLab published this exhibition catalog too.
The first time I discovered the ListLab, I think it's at the 2018. We made a very nice public talk show in Wonderful Today. It's a photography event for the Asian young photographers artists. The main concept is the incubation and develop young artists and support them to the world. We asked the jury members from the whole world, including Japan, France, Singapore, Taipei, and also Italy, the ListLab.
In this context, Massimiliano arrived in Taiwan accompanied by Jacopo Marcomeni, the commercial director of ListLab, and participated as a juror to the Wonder Photo Day fair, which was organized by Mr. Fang. Furthermore, he had the opportunity to visit Mr. Wang and his work personally. This was key to introduce Massimiliano to the world of local architecture and promote ListLab. Among the people he met, there was Monica Kuo, an influential professor and professional in Taiwan.
Well, I think Taiwan actually is an oceanic country if you put in the world. But however, because we are not belongs to the UN, we do have a lot of energy. We have a lot of talent people to working in Taiwan. So I think it's important. We have to deliver our, contribution, our dedication to the world to let them know, what's happening in Taiwan, and especially they need to know what's the update of Taiwan.
Monica studied and worked in America during the first half of the 80s. Then she returned to Taiwan to work with the government and develop the national park system. Following this first experience, her importance was then consolidated since she assumed the consultant position for public project. In this position, which is an official one, she had to supervise various initiatives and help the administration to forge the social and economic relationships that could help them succeed with their endeavors. Most important, she has successfully contributed to so many projects that she has built a very vast network of professional relationships.
Personally, I really appreciate we do have this kind of publication now, because I usually travel a lot worldwide. For instance, when I stop over in Bangkok, Bangkok people consider is like an under or we say developing country. However, you can see or you can buy a lot of English publication about the Bangkok or Thailand in the bookstore, in the airport. But in Taiwan, we really need this kind of publication, especially in English or in other foreign language. So to me, this is a very good start.
This need for communication that Monica has expressed somehow allowed me to speak about Taiwan differently from what had been done so far. In particular, this allowed me to shape a critical perspective that could help the Western public understand Taiwan and local design experiences that were previously ignored mostly. The book's story is then the story of my travel to Ilan, essentially. Indeed, this is the city where Mr. Wang lives and works. Although this city is an hour's drive from Taipei, the investigation of the field office archives, the development of ad hoc architecture photography, and the development of mutual knowledge, also with Mr. Huang, were fundamental for the book. I often drove through the long tunnel that connects Taipei and Yilan. Sometimes I took the bus, sometimes the train, sometimes it was Mr. Huang who brought me to the site of his project. Anyway, let's say that starting from 2018, I went to Yilan at least twice a month. My wife, Maria Lesnina, which is an architect, photographer, visual artist, also accompanied me very often.
I'm an architect and artist, so through this I had a chance to meet many Taiwanese creative professionals. In the beginning, I was not so much interested in the work of huangsheng-yuen, and I even wonder why Alessandro spent so much time going to Yilan, looking into the walkways and some other public projects. But then, by spending time with him there many times, I must confess I start to develop some fascination about field office itself and the uncommon presence of the key works spreading everywhere. It looks like the Taiwanese landscape. They're not majestic, but sprawl everywhere.
Maria helped me developing architectural photography for the book. Still, she was also crucial because she developed an aesthetic reading of Mr. Huang's work. To put it another way, if it had been for her, the book probably would have ended up focusing only on urban planning aspects.
Taiwan landscape is taking over. The nature is not majestic, but it prevails. Trees sometimes grow out of the wall of the building. Sometimes it's too bright. Humidity and sun make the light spread everywhere, but the color is gray. Blue sky mostly happens before typhoon. The houses are small and people mostly meet outside. Similar to traditional martial arts like Tai Chi, people tend to avoid conflicts. Taiwanese people are attracted by new technologies, but also very much into bricolage, and they're not clean and perfect like Japanese. Indeed, Taiwanese people like to do social activities and businesses, and it's not so much about making money, but about staying in society. In this context, I started to take pictures of Taiwan landscape because it looked very different from what I have seen before. And I also tried to experience many forms of traditional arts and activities. I tried to make it in such a way so that it could reflect these Eastern practices.
To conclude, I recommend you the book by Alessandro Martinelli, The City Beyond Architecture. For more information, please visit the website www.listlab.eu. I'm Claudio Curciotti. I will be back with the second part of this podcast. Meanwhile, we thank the people who took part in this episode: Chunusiung-wang, Yen Wenfang, Monica Kuo, Maria Lesnina, Yani Li, Massimiliano Scaglione. A special thanks go to Alessandro, who led us in this story, and of course, Mr. Huang.